we demonstrate drape, y'all. Hey guys, I'm Bella, the maker mama boss lady behind Fiber and Fox, and this is episode 65 of my podcast. I am back again to talk to you about crochet and knitting and apparently sewing. Not that I know what I'm talking about, but we're going to talk about it. I'm a crochet designer and I talk about crochet and knitting and I guess sewing now, like I said. But this is my podcast and thank you for joining me. If it's your first time, thank you for stopping in. I hope you find something you like here. You're very welcome and feel free to stick around. And if you come back, I super appreciate you because you keep this thing going. So kids are with the husband and hopefully they don't get rowdy out there. But we're recording on another Saturday morning. And I have a bunch of things to show. Bunch of things. All sorts of things. So I will try and pace myself. I occasionally get comments that say I talk too fast. I really try not to, but it is my personality to talk fast. It's who I am. And also knowing that like the clock is ticking down on how long I have to record, I kind of tend to speed things up. But there is a way that you can, with magical technology, slow down the video if I'm too fast for you. So I apologize. I am what I am here. But episode 65, let's chat some stuff. I don't think I have any admin, so we'll jump into designs and things. On the topic, it's not a new design, but what I'm wearing is one of my designs. I remade it. I'm not going to be relaunching the pattern in any way, but I remade one of my patterns that's previously DK weight. I made it in a fingering weight, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. So I will tell you what I did if you want to mess around with the pattern, but I am not currently planning on relaunching it or anything. But this is the Fandeco Tee. It looks super boring from where I'm sitting, but it is a crochet tee, and it is basically, I'm going to put in footage. So I'm not going to try and stand up and show you, but it is a crochet tee that has a very plain front and then a really fun lace panel in the back. And previously it was made in DK weight. The pattern is available on Etsy, Ravelry, all of that. It's been out, I think maybe 2019. It's been out for a while. And it's one that I think is really fabulous. It's in 8 sizes and DK weight, like I said, and typically the one, I think a couple testers did solid colors, but I designed it so the front and the back are one color, and then just like the lace panel is a separate like pop of color, and then there's an optional lace edging on the sleeves as well. But I wanted to remake it in I don't know, everybody says like a lot of the patterns that come up for summer and spring are DK weight, which is totally acceptable. The original pattern was written in 100% cotton and DK weight. I don't live somewhere like super hot, like even crazy humid or anything. I'm in New England. Connecticut does get it can hit 100 in the summer, but not usually over. But it is very humid and I'm just generally run hot. So DK weight to me feels really sweaty. I wore my original Fandeco this week and I think it was only like 90. And mind you, I'm carrying a baby too. So I was just sweltering. So I wanted to remake it in a lighter weight yarn. And I have had in my stash for a little bit this Shibui Knits Fern. And Shibui is definitely a luxury yarn. And you could make this in any manner of cottons that are available, or really any yarn, doesn't have to be cotton. But a nice summer yarn is nice. But this is one that I have gotten repeatedly at a local yarn store when they do a big clearance sale, like 75% off. So whatever 75% off, 17 something that is pretty cheap. So I was able to get it very cheap. It's 100% organic cotton and this is the color Graphite. And it doesn't say that it's a fingering weight. It may actually be sport. It's 232 yards per 50 grams. So yeah, I think that's fingering weight because that would be 460 something. So Shibui Knits Fern, color Graphite, 100% organic merino. And it is so soft and it is very drapey. Or cotton tends to have, I don't know, when I think of cotton, I still think of like the Lily Sugar and Cream, like really thick dishclothy cotton that is almost rigid and like sponges up all the moisture in the air, even if you're not using it as a dishcloth. I just feel like they perpetually smell damp. Maybe that's the humidity, I don't know. But this one is like so drapey. This is how we demonstrate drape, y'all. So drapey. And it's, the feel of it, I would compare to like Egyptian cotton sheets. Like it feels like my bed sheets. It's super, super soft, doesn't have any stiffness or like the dry crunchiness that cotton sometimes can have. And I really like it. I have it in a couple different colors now, and I've actually gotten more that I'll show you in acquisitions because I went back and got more. But it only took, let's see, this is 50 grams, and I had 4 of them. So it took like 150 grams to make a essentially size medium top in crochet, which I think is pretty good because crochet tends to eat yarn like crazy. To be able to make a top for under 200 grams with crocheting, I mean, definitely the lace panel helps because it's very open in the back, and it's cropped. And I should say the original design is not cropped. It is like a tunic length, but it's very easy to adjust if you want to make it shorter, longer, any of that. Length is very customizable there. So that is what I did. Basically, I didn't gauge swatch knowing that it's my own pattern and how I crochet, and I wasn't super picky on the fit and whatnot. So I didn't gauge, but you should if you want to adjust a pattern. I'm not going to explain how to do it here, but I can try to remember to link. I know there's many patterns out there, but I know Taylor Earl in particular of Fiber for the People has a good video on how to adjust patterns to a different yarn weight and how to do that math. And like swatch and then plug in your numbers and measurements. It requires some mathing, but it's easy enough to do. But basically what I did is I ended up making myself the size large with a thinner yarn and a smaller hook. So I was using fingering weight yarn, and I used a 3.75, I believe, which is I put it away. It's the pink one. I always know the clover ones by what color they are and not what millimeterage they are. I think it's G? I think so. F. I'll put it down below if I need to. But I was using the pink clover hook, and I held it up to my original just to make sure my measurements were pretty much the same. And it came out basically to the size of the medium. So it fits, like you saw, it fits really nicely. And I love the drape of it and the feel of it and the breathability of it because it's a very loose fabric. I have a tank underneath, but I'm really liking it. And it doesn't have any of that crunchy, crisp cotton feeling. So I may actually make myself another or some other loosey-goosey crochet tee. Maybe not this one, but really liking it. And this is, the neckline is laying super nicely on this one. It's actually just a straight across, what is this, crew neck, boat neck. But yeah, the way the yarn is laying is just lovely. And there's different options in the pattern. Like I said, for the edging of the sleeve, there's a lace pattern or a ribbed pattern, and the bottom is ribbed, split hem. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted to talk that up, and I'm loving it. It's rekindled my love for the Fandeco Tee, and I wanted to share that with you. So the original DK, do what you will with that information and play around with some fabulous yarn. So I really like that. And I don't know, this yarn is always on clearance at the store, so I maybe need to look up if this is actually available elsewhere or if it's like discontinued, because a lot of times those are discontinued ones. But Shibui is lovely if you can at all get your hands on it in a D-stash or have it in your budget to buy. All of it is lovely, all of it. So that is what I'm doing design-wise. I guess I was messing around with the pre-existing design, and I ended up frogging it like multiple times, not because there was anything wrong with the pattern, but because I just chose to not read my own pattern. I assumed I knew what I was doing because, you know, it's my pattern, but have I committed all of my patterns completely to my mind and absolute memorization? No, I have not. So I just assumed what I was doing, and I started out in the wrong stitch, and then I did a couple of ridiculous things, but I was doing completely the wrong stitch for the body of the sweater. And then I got to the back and I was almost done with the back panel. I went to measure it to see if it fit me, and I had only made one sleeve because I'm just sitting down, going, never held it up, never measured it. Made one sleeve. So I frogged this multiple times, but all in all, it took me, even with all the frogging, like 4 days. Seaming, blocking, all of it. So it's a quick pattern. So recommend on these summery patterns. And then this is, I guess, a design because I made it, but I did not design it. Or in that I'm not selling a pattern for it. I made this last year, and you've seen it before if you've been around here. And it was laughable last year, and it might be laughable now. Like, it's one of those things, I have a couple projects today that I love looking at them on a hanger, but then I put them on and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a lot. So my crazy fringy sunflower top, which I was just winging completely. I made it last year when I was super duper pregnant, and it looked absolutely absurd cropped over my pregnant belly, especially with these tassels, which we may be removing because they are a little preposterous. Again, I will put in some footage of me wearing this glorious thing, but I don't know about this top. I don't know. The only thing that I can refer you to on pattern is I used from a blog post. It was a free pattern on how to do a sunflower stitch granny square, not sunflower stitch, a sunflower puff granny, whatever this is called. So I can link you to that blog post, but other than that, I just made, let's see, how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe there's 10 of them. And just joined it into a top. The placement of the flowers might be a little questionable. I think it plays off okay because it's obviously not just the top bit, it's the whole thing, but it's a little something. And the tassels, which I added because I thought it would be cute over like a bathing suit or something, the tassels might be insane. They might just be crazy. So I might be trimming them off. You can let me know. Look at the footage, and I kind of tucked it up to show you what it would look like without the tassels. And I've pondered doing just some tassels, getting rid of maybe this middle tassel and just leaving the long, so getting rid of the one in the V's and then doing the ones like on the lower triangles, if that makes any sense. Leaving those, but I think that would look even sillier if there was only 4 tassels instead of 8 or whatever we have going on here. I think it fits cute if it weren't so chaotic and didn't look like some sort of a hippie tablecloth. I don't know. I want to like it. And I have another one that I made originally for myself, and it ended up too small. So I have like this other smaller version that I considered making something for my daughter out of, but if it's gonna look crazy on me, do I really want to subject her to that as well? Like this one fits on me, but it's tight. So this one is not a good look, but I could make my daughter some sort of matching and maybe put a skirt onto it or something, or a ruffle, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know if oh look, there's been a hook in here the whole time. I did this with H, the blue one from Clover. And the yarn that I was using was a combo of a couple different Yarn Bee ones, but I know one for sure. The shiny ones, the yellow and the red, were Yarn Bee Fresh Haven, and this was from last year, so I'm assuming it's still available. I'm not really positive, but this one is, again, super drapey, 100% lyocell, which I think we've looked up before and is a bamboo derivative. I know viscose usually is. I think lyocell is bamboo related. And then I think this is just the, oh, there's a bracelet stuck in there. I think this is just the Yarn Bee, I love this cotton, whatever, plain white color. So I still have a bunch of the red and the yellow left, so I could do something. I have a full skein, almost 2 full skeins of the red and then a bit of yellow. So I could do something for my daughter in relation to a skirt, a ruffle, a something. Maybe finish out the bottom with some half triangles and then put a little ruffle on it. That might be cute for her, but I don't know what I'm doing with this. So you place your votes. Do we need to cut off the tassels? Do we need to add complete fringe around the bottom? I don't know if I have enough yarn for that. I might be able to repurpose the tassels into fringe, but if I just like fringed up and down everywhere, then it would really look like a fun curtain tablecloth. Keep the tassels, or just scrap the whole thing and never be seen in public in it ever. I don't know. I want to like it. It's so happy. But then I put it on and it's crazy. So let me know what you think about that. It's my Sunflower Granny beach cover-up summer crop top festival wear. I'm not going to any festivals, but it feels like that's what that is. I don't know. It's something. So that is what I've been designing as far as crochet that I have been experimenting with. No patterns are coming for that because no one needs that besides me. I'm not even sure if I need it. That's what we've been working on. Finished objects. I have another summer top. This one's knit. And I'm gonna keep putting in footage. It's gonna be a whole summer fashion show.
Fashion show. Fashion show. Fashion show at lunch.
Yes, because standing up in this chair just never works out. But this is another one that I made and I really liked on the model. I really liked in theory. I really like the colors. I really like when I hold it up, I'm like, oh, that's pretty. I like that. And then I put it on and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about you. So this is the Ellis tank by Quince & Co. And again, super drapey, super summery, super open gauge, really lovely. Love this color. Love the white and the orange, kind of foxy. And I like it. And on the model, like obviously the modeled photos are always like the best photos and the best angles. And I don't remember if I looked at project pages or modifications, but I really liked the stripes on the model. She's like in a greenhouse and they're taken in such a way that they're like kind of taken angled up at her and she looks tall and lovely and just looks good. And this isn't even like, I don't know, a body insecurity issue or anything, but I don't feel like stripes around your midsection is the best place to have stripes. I feel pretty good about how I look. Midsection stripes is maybe a bad choice. Oh, there's a stitch marker in here still. We'll take you out. So I kind of wish that I just did it in the orange, even though I really like the two colors together. I can't tell if in the original photo if it's orange and white or orange and like a pale pink, but I did like an orange and cream. And I think it looks so pretty, but just the way the stripes fall on the exact midsection of my torso, I feel like it's not great. So let me know. I definitely didn't follow the pattern in entirety. I think I added length. So it's an A-line shape, which I love. And I like the way it drapes and lays and all of that. But I added, I think I started in a larger size. So I think I made the size large for the bottom. It's a bottom up. So I made the size large on the bottom. And then as I was doing the decreases, I decreased up to the size medium instead of stopping at the stitch count for size large. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what I did. And I think the original had 7 stripes and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Probably could have done with maybe 8. Maybe even 9. I think 10 was too many. Because the way it hits on the model, it's hitting like in the middle of her ribs maybe. Yeah, I guess mid-rib. Mine is hitting right under my bust more or less. And I think that makes the stripes even stranger. I'm not going to rip it out, but I don't know if it's my favorite. The other thing that I did differently, I think I 3-needle bound off on the top, but I did it intentionally inside out because I like seeing the seam. I think it's a cute little structure. So I have this little ridge on the shoulder seam. And then I single crocheted around the armholes and the neckline. I think that's the only major other things that I changed. And in adding more decreases and more stripes, I added more length too. So it's a little longer. So it fits very tunic length and it has nice, you can't really see any of the stuff that I'm showing to you. So hopefully the footage gave you a good idea, but it has nice short row shaping in the back. So the back hangs a little lower. And then the other thing that I added, which I might take out, I haven't sewn in that end yet because I'm not quite sold on it. I think it looks beautiful again on paper, on a hanger, laying flat, but then I put it on and is it too much? Is this too extra? I really like this little fan motif crochet edge that I added, and I'll show you what it's from a book. I like to add crochet onto the bottom. I think it helps things lay nicely, keeps them from rolling up, and it's just a nice like little added touch, but it might be too extra, especially with the stripes. I think if the tank was solid orange with the white on the bottom, and maybe with like white around the armholes or something, it would be really nice. But with the stripes and the lace, is it too much? This is the theme of the episode. Is it too much? Am I too much? Probably. So I could still rip out the lace bit on the bottom and then just have solid orange and maybe single crochet around the bottom or do an I-cord or something to help it keep from wanting to roll up on itself. I did actually single crochet, you can see. I did like back loop single crochet before I added the border. But I haven't talked about the yarn yet, but I will in a second. The edging that I added Hang on, we have a Jenga thing going on here. Don't everybody fall down. Again, I've linked this book before. I will link it again. 500 Crochet Stitches. It is, I'm not sure who it is by, the Ultimate Crochet Stitch Bible. And the edging that I added is called Peacock Fans. The only difference is I didn't, it's that one. I didn't do the little picots on the bottom. I just left the fans as is, and it's on page 255. If you are interested in that, I will link the book below. And I don't know if I've mentioned, I keep saying I'll link things below, but there are show notes down below the video and any other links that you might need as far as Instagram and blogs and all of that, all linked. So I added that. The yarn that I used is also from the same yarn store, clearance 75% off last year. Nina by Stacy Charles of Taki Yarns. It's got a lot of names on it, but 75% linen, 77% linen, 23% cotton, and color is that. And I really like this color, and the yarn is, we've chainette, where it's almost like a little cord. And I think I used 4. I think I used 4 or 3 and then some. So I have a little bit left. Because I think I had 5 to start with and I have 1 left. So strangely, that used more yarn than this crochet top, which is unusual for a crochet project. So good to know. And then the contrast white is a little bit I wound off from a cone from Green Mountain Spinnery back up there. You can't see them. They're all my cones. And they're mill ends, and this is a random 2-ply. I don't know what it is because they don't label them. They're just scrappy bits. 2-ply, something very woolly, which would definitely felt if I threw it in the washing machine. So this is just going to have to be hand washed because I would imagine linen and cotton gets kind of crunchy and weird if you put it in the washing machine. So I'm going to hand wash it either way. But yes, so this is my Ellis tank by Quince & Co. Comment below with your thoughts. I would probably make the pattern again in a solid color. Maybe even add the fun lace on the bottom. But I think the stripes just might be a bad choice. Or you would need to maybe do the stripes throughout the entire tank. But that would get kind of tedious once you split for the fronts and backs. But if the stripes were throughout, I don't know. I probably added too many stripes. I should have just followed the pattern. I'm going to wear it, but I feel like it's going to need a layering piece over it or something to kind of detract from the stripy, I keep looking down at it, I'm sorry, the stripy silhouette that it is creating. It's just not. And with the A-line too. Maybe the A-line and I don't know what the problem is, but like, it's like bust, stripes, bottom, but I feel like the stripes make it go bust, stripes, bottom. Like, the stripes are a lot. So that is another one of my finished objects. And I have a pair of socks to show you. I'm getting buried in piles of stuff here. But we got socks. Let's talk about socks. So I have finished the Mermaid Avenue socks by Summerly Knits. And I have definitely messed them up royally. But the yarn is so busy that you kind of can't tell so much. Like there's, I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot. No, you can't really tell. From far away, from the back of a horse riding, wearing knitted socks in your Birkenstocks, you cannot tell. But I messed up the stitch repeat like a bunch of times. So it was just a little much for my brain to keep track of. I think it was like a 12-row repeat, and it was easy enough. I eventually got it down. But because any pattern where it's like do this and then shift it over by a couple stitches for the repeat, my brain gets very confused on what I did last and what I need to do next, especially if I had to put it down to get up and come back to it and I couldn't do the whole 12-row repeat in one go. It was a little much for me to think about. It was not hard at all. It is definitely an easy enough pattern if you know how to knit socks and read a pattern. But it creates this really beautiful like scale design, mermaid-esque. I guess I was thinking dragons, but really pretty. And I would probably make them again, but I would need more peace and quiet and brain space for it. But I think they're cute, and I think the yarn that I used helps disguise any of the mistakes, and they are just socks. If it was a sweater, I'd rip back, but it's socks. The yarn that I used for this is down here on the floor. I don't really need to show you because it's the same as this. But it was some leftover, I'm trying to work through some of my scraps, leftover from Beach Bum yarns in the colorway Auld Lang Syne. So it might be like a holiday, Christmas, New Year kind of thing, but it's really pretty greens and mossy and grays, and I love a combo like that. And then the mini was a Lean and Lotus mini. So I like these a lot. This was the first of the summer lean knits patterns that I've made, and I've since bought a couple others and a pattern bundle, and I'm working on another pair now. And her patterns are very well laid out, and she makes really beautiful, colorful things, and has a combo of like either really simple socks and then some more like textured and cable and fun. So it's a good time, the summer lean knits patterns. I would recommend. And I've seen sales pop up a couple times for her if you want to keep a lookout. But yeah, Mermaid Avenue socks. I think these are my 5th pair of socks for the year. And they're cute and I'm happy with them. I think this color, if I could get my hands on more of this Beach Bum, I would actually almost like a sweater or top in that. Because it's just really, really a lovely green-gray situation. So that is, I think, all my finished objects, yes. And then I have another sock whip to share. Of course, I'm in the middle of a row on these, but it doesn't really matter because I can show you because my sock needles will allow me to do so. But these are another summer lead pattern. Oh, it shows up really good on camera. When I'm looking at it in person, I was kind of worried that the like stitch pattern was just erroneous. But it is actually showing up. This is called the Scattered Pearls, and it is also a summerly knits pattern, but it's part of the Hello Sailor sock set. So I don't think you can get it separately. It's a 4 sock set pattern, all inspired by like traditional Guernsey sailor typey sweaters and oceanic nautical things. And she had a sale, and the price, I don't remember what the price was, but for the 4 socks that you were getting, it was a very reasonable price for the set, the set of socks, a little booklet of socks. And it has a DK weight pattern, a fingering weight pattern, a cabled pattern, and then this pattern. So there's like 2 ribbed and like fingering and DK, and then a cabled one. I have not tried cable socks, and I do not care to right now. And then a textured, it's called Scattered Pearls, like ocean pearls, but it's obviously pearl bumps. What are we doing? We're overheating camera? Why are we doing that? That's silly. I guess we'll have to take a break in a second here and tell you about them in a minute. We're back at the proper temperature, I think. So these, as we were talking about, it's a really subtle stitch pattern, and maybe if I did it in a lighter colored yarn, I would definitely not suggest doing this one in a busy yarn like the Beach Bum yarn because you would lose the little pearl bits. But this is easy enough. I think this is a 8-row, 9-row repeat, and it's the same thing where you do like 1 stitch pattern for the first half and then you shift it over by a couple stitches for the second half of the repeat. But this is super easy to read because all you need to do is look for the pearl bump when you start the row and you can tell what you need to do. So yeah, this is definitely more mindless than the ones that I was doing and more up my alley for what I need right now for my time and brain space. The yarn that I'm using is Sassy Black Yarns Extravaganza. Also Stash, I've already made 1 pair of socks. I did the herding cat socks in this purple. And then this I think is a fiber for the people. I think this was left over from my dandelion disperse shawl. So this is a fingering weight, but it's a little bit thicker. Really like this, but it was a lucky strike, which means it's a one of a kind. This, I have no idea. This is a mini skein. I have no idea where this came from because this is not at all a color I would have picked for myself at all. And then I think I'm going to use maybe this other little bit because they're just like scraps. So I don't think I have enough left to do toes and cuffs in this gray. So I was thinking maybe I would use this, which I think is also fiber for the people, and this nylon cord thread that I got at a thrift store, held double for the toe. And I'm trying to decide, I definitely have enough yarn left to do the same on the second sock, same contrast, but I'm thinking it might be fun to do completely different heel toe cuff contrast colors and just use random scraps and minis. Because they're already purple socks, they're already ridiculous. So since the yarn itself, the main color, is a solid, or you know, tonally solid, I thought it would be fun to just like do some really random, fun, scrappy heel toe cuffs. I don't know, maybe. We'll see how it looks. But that is the plan, and I've only been working on these for a couple days and they're going nice and fast, and it's a nice carry with me. I can put it down at any point and not be stressed about the stitch repeat but it's also not a vanilla sock, and it's not too boring, and it's not like super duper textured, so I'm not doing a ton of purling. It's great. You're only purling, I think, 2 rows out of the 8 or 9. So mostly a vanilla sock with just a little bit of interest in it, which is what I need right now. I would really like to get some more self-striping yarn, because that's interesting enough that I could just knit a vanilla sock and still be entertained by the striping, or just do some subtly textured stuff like this. I always have socks on the go because it's easy to bring with me, and we're going to do quite a bit of, not road trips, but quite a bit of driving to places like 3 hours or less away this summer. So just some time in the car. And it's nice to have an easy pattern that when kids are around, or I'm going to the beach or going to a cabin or whatever we're doing, a simple, not have to think about it, not have to math, not have to measure, not have to nothing kind of pattern. So socks it is. If you have any suggestions, I'm always open to more. But I am really liking the Summerly Knits pattern, and I think this Hello Sailor set is definitely worthwhile if you are into that sort of thing. I think, let me check my notes here. Yeah, I think that's all the whips and finished objects and whatnot that I have. I have some yarn acquirings, and I have some sewing thoughts, not sewing to show you, because it's actually my daughter's, but I have some sewing to share. And also, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but I had pulled on Instagram, and most of you, or at least people who answer me on Instagram, had said that you would be interested in seeing veggie garden tours as well. I am not starting a gardening channel. I am not doing separate gardening videos, but I've seen a couple different yarn related channels tack them onto the end of the video. So if you are not at all into gardening and don't want to see seedlings and plants and carrots and tomatoes and potatoes and all that, you can just feel free to skip the end of the video, but I am gonna, I think, try to tack that on. I filmed it with my phone the other day, so the audio might be slightly different. Next time I'll have to bring my actual camera out. But I might tack on a little garden tour here and there throughout garden season, because I am very much into growing food and preserving food, and I wouldn't say all out homesteading or anything here. We don't have any livestock or animals or bees or any of that yet. Maybe someday, but I am very much into food growing and preserving that food. So that takes up a lot of my summer. So I thought I might share that with you if you are interested. But first we'll finish the yarn acquirings. So if you're here for the yarn, we'll get the yarn out of the way. Then we'll do the sewing. If you're not here for that, you can skip it, and the garden will be at the end. But let's talk the yarn that I have acquired. I have it displayed all lovely in a basket. That's really pretty. Maybe that should be the cover photo. Yes. This looks familiar. I got more of, hang on, let me just tell you. Village Wool, it is a yarn store in Glastonbury, Connecticut. I have a tour and interview from 2021, I think, from the I-91 shop hop. It's one of the 9 shops on the trail. But I have an interview with them, and it is fairly local to me, and they always have a twice a year sale where she does like a bag sale where if you buy a bag of yarn, you get 50% off. You stuff like a gift bag size bag. 50% off, and then I think everything is 25% off if you don't stuff the bag, and then the clearance is 75% off, but it doesn't count towards the bag. It's a whole system she has going. But she has great clearance yarn. And really, a lot of it is sometimes discontinued, so it's hard to find more of, but I've gotten a ton of yarn that I really love there. In that, like this and the other yarn I showed you before, the orange. Really like it and have made some really lovely things with it. So I actually got a bunch of summery yarns. So I do not know if these are at all available to anybody else. I recognize the companies, but I don't know if these particular yarns are still available. But for this entire basket, I had a gift card. My mother-in-law gets me gift cards because she works fairly near to there. So I had a gift card for my birthday that I was saving up for the sale. And all of this was like $50. And it's pretty luxury yarns. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I got more of the orange because I really liked some of them. The problem with the clearance rack is that some of them are a little bedraggled looking, but wool tends to get really tangly. Cotton I can usually untangle pretty well. But this is more of that same Stacy Charles Nina. So now I have 4 skeins of that, so I definitely have enough to make another tee or tank in just the plain orange, no stripes, if I wanted to. And then I'm really liking this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, and I do not know what this brand is because I can't read. Even, she always puts the label. It's very annoying to me. Like, what does that say? SSK? Is this even words? Is it just a logo? Like, yeah. I don't know what that says. So these were all 75% off. And so this is some sort of nonsense logo company. Like, talk to your branding department. What is that? Looks like yarn barf. It's made of recycled denim, and it's called Riva, like revival maybe. And it is made in Italy. And what is 95% cotton and 5% other fibers. Mystery fibers. And that's the dye lot and color. But it's a really nice 2-ply, I think. It's definitely got like cotton, fluffy, wants to shed kind of feeling to it. But it's really pretty. Green with like little, come on, focus. Green with little bits of yellow and blue in it. I don't know how you recycle denim into being yarn, but I'm here for it. It's cool. And I believe it is some of these like Italian ones, they don't say like the weight, but the yardage on it is buried deep in this ball. 50 grams, 155 meters. How does that compare? I'm not good at the meterage. So I think it's like sport weight, maybe DK. Because this one's fingering weight and it's 212 meters. So this is 155 meters. So it's sport DK maybe. And I have 4. I might make a Tolsta tee. I don't know if the pattern's kind of been taking over. Crochet and her patterns have been just sweeping the nation of knitters. I might make one of those. It's a raglan tee, really simple, really basic, but I don't know if I love where the raglan is like, I don't know. Where the raglan stitches are placed, I feel like it's kind of wide so that there ends up being a bunch of fabric. I mean, this kind of has a bunch of fabric too, but this is drop shoulder. I feel like there's extra fabric in the front and maybe less fabric on the sleeves, which I suppose you could change if you moved. I don't know. I would need to look at the pattern, but thousands of people have made it, I think, at this point, and it came out in like May. So it's very popular. And she just released a fingering weight version as well as the DK weight version. It's all one pattern. But I really like this green. And I might, with my 200 grams, make one of those or some other very basic tee pattern, because I think this would be a really nice, I don't know, I think I like a V-neck tee better. It's a rounded neck. I don't know. I've made the Cumulus tee by Petite Knit. If you have any other V-neck pattern suggestions, I would be interested, because I think I like, it's got like a ribbed collar and everything. I don't know if I want a ribbed collar raglan tee, but I do like a loose A-line or boxy, loose flowy fit, probably a V-neck, something tee. But I really liked that. And then I got more of the Shibui. It's probably discontinued because this is all she had left. I got more because I have 3 of this color already. I don't know if it's the exact same dye lot, but I could always alternate skeins. But yeah, for $18, 75% off is pretty good. And I actually like this gray better. I was going to make it in this color, that color, but I didn't think I had enough, which I probably would have because I only ended up using 3. So now I have 1 of these left and I have now 4 of these gray. So I have options there to make another top. And then I got these 2, not my colors at all, but these are my daughter's 2 favorite colors, Daytime Blue and Hot Pink. So I thought I would make her a tee or a tank in like a micro stripe. And this is a limited edition color, which makes it even specialer. This is the color Petal and the color Twilight. Oh, and this dark one is called Tar. Lovely. So I got those. And I am not one who usually goes crazy like this in a yarn store, but with a gift card and a sale, how can we say no? And then this is Barocco Mantra, and it is 100% silk. And I have not used the Knitting for Olive silk, but I feel like this would be comparable to it. I would say it is a fingering weight, 182 yards per 50 grams, so maybe closer to a sport. But it looks very fingering weight. But it's 100% silk, and it's in a lovely color, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, so 300 grams of that. So this would be enough to probably make an open and airy gauged top or sweater, cardigan. I would like to make a cardigan, I think. Another Crayabea pattern, the Corin cardigan is one that she's released also this year, I think. And it's not a mesh, not really, I guess it's a lace technically, but it's just like an open, almost looks like really large, not eyelets. It's like a circly hold laced cardigan, and it has a V-neck or a rounded neck, and it can be short sleeve or long sleeve. And I think it's DK or worsted, but again, why would I do what the pattern says? I'm gonna make it in fingering weight silk. I've actually had a very similar pattern that I've wanted to design in my own mind in crochet. But I think that one's a drop shoulder, and I've wanted to do a raglan. I made one for my daughter when she was a baby with a stitch pattern that I've used in a couple of my shawls that I want to translate into an adult size crochet sweater. But again, the brain space has not been there. This is since my daughter was a baby, so we're going on 5 years of the brain space not being there, I guess. But grading it got complicated because I figured out how to do it in like her size and probably my size, but grading a lace-ish pattern in crochet seemed like a lot. And I could hire that out to somebody else, but so I might try to crochet it, but I don't know if 300 grams would be enough. I could probably make a short sleeve cardigan, but crochet tends to eat it. I don't know. I need to do some swatching, but I have 6 of these, and it's the color, whatever that is. But I really like this goldeny mustard color. And it's just very, again, very drapey, very soft. In my mind, silk is like shiny and slick, but this is actually, it almost has like a little nubs to it. I don't know if you can see the texture. Not really. But I would have pegged this as cotton. It has a very similar feel on my hands to this. So I guess it's not shiny silk. I don't know. I've not used silk before other than in a silk mohair. So combined. I've never used 100% silk, so I'm excited to have that. And then that's all of my yarn hauls. All my yarn finds. So that ends the yarny content for the podcast. I'm going to share a couple thoughts on sewing, and then we'll tack a garden tour on and call it a day. This one might be a little longer, but the troops are all happy out there, so we'll carry on. So sewing. Let's talk about sewing, because I don't know about sewing. My daughter is 4.5 and she wants to sew. I am a kind of person, somebody once told me, because I had initially with my life wanted to be a fiction young adult author. I wanted to write. And someone asked me, do you want to write or do you want to have written? Meaning, do you actually love do you want to do the work of the writing, or do you just want to be someone who has written books and has been a published author? And when it came down to it, I do love to write, and I still very much try to use that skill and interest elsewhere. I do love writing. I do love English. I do love books, all that. But I very much wanted to have written, and I have the same attitude about sewing. I love, like, when people share, like, their sewing stuff on a podcast, or I see patterns, or someone that I know is sharing, like, a handmade wardrobe on Instagram and Me Made May and all of that. Like, I'm like, I love that. I want that. I want that to be me. I want to have all of these dresses that I've sewn, and I want to make my own clothes, and people be like, oh, I love your dress. And I'd be like, oh, I sewed it. I want to have sewn. I do not want to sew. Sewing brings out a rage and an anxiety in me that I cannot compare to anything else. And my husband says it's because I have a personality that if I'm not immediately good at it, I hate it. Which might be true. I do tend to be like that. As does my daughter, because she is exactly my clone. And sewing is a struggle for me. And I get very frustrated by the lining things up and the cutting and the precision and the ironing. I hate ironing. And everything must be just so. And there's something forgiving about yarn, that if you mess it up, you can pull it out. You can do it again. It's still yarn and you're okay. But sewing, you mess up the fabric and it's just messed up. Seam ripping is a pain in the rumpus, and it doesn't usually look as good. And like, if you cut the thing wrong, then like you've wasted all that fabric, and fabric is expensive, and sewing patterns are expensive. Like, let's talk about comparing like crochet patterns to sewing patterns. Like, I understand there's more engineering and graphic design skills or something that happens in making the printed patterns, But yes, sewing patterns are pricey. And then you have to, you can pay to have somebody else print them for you, but to then print them and like tape them together and then cut them all, no, thank you. So I have not sewn my own wardrobe because of all of that. It overwhelms and angers me and brings out things in me that I do not like. So I have not sewn. But my daughter wants to sew. So we have been doing some little simple projects. I have a super basic Singer sewing machine that somebody gave me when they were moving. It's like 25 years old. It works great, but it is like the basic, I don't know what model it is. I could probably look it up, but I looked it up and it's from like 1998. So it's just very basic-y. So we've sewn a couple hand sewn pillows. We've machine sewn a pillow this week. And then my mom gave me some pre-quilted blocks that she or somebody else, I don't know where they came from, had done. So little 4 square blocks that we then took the blocks and sewed into a little doll quilt. And we still need to edge it out and put it back on and all that. But very basic. Actually, I can show you the quilt. It's right here. The quilt. So my mom had given us these blocks that were 4 squares and then helped my daughter pin and sew them together. And it's winky wonky. And it's very sweet. And yeah, sewing makes me angry. And my camera is threatening to overheat again. So we're going to give it another momentary break and we'll come back to sewing in a minute. All right, children are crying, babies are crying. Camera's being overheaty and the battery's dying. So we're going to wrap it up. But my daughter wants to sew. And I am not good at sewing, knowledgeable at sewing. But if she wants to learn something, we're going to figure it out. So if you have any resources for sewing with a preschool, kindergartner aged child who is very determined and very wants to be good at things, but doesn't necessarily want to do the time and effort that it takes to be good at things. So like this week, we're going to sew some scrunchies because it's a fairly easy process, a little tedious, but repetitive, easy, simple fabric, simple elastic. I've watched a bunch of tutorials. I think we have that figured out. We're going to make some scrunchies, but we need something that's not too repetitive. Like the quilt blocks, she got to the point where we did a couple and she was like, this is the same thing over and over again. I don't want to do this anymore. So we took it over a couple days and it was fine. But she like wants to sew like a dress, like a pantsuit, like elaborate queen size quilts. She has big aspirations, but very little skills because she's 4. And I have about the skills of a 4-year-old anyway. So I had gotten a couple books at and these aren't made for kids to sew. These are like sewing for things for your children. A couple books that I got, our library has like almost like a D-stash of books. They have a regular book sale, but then they have another pile that's like donate as you will, no prices. So I've gotten a couple sewing books. I have no idea if these are good sewing books. I have no idea what they're from. So Bend the Rules Sewing by Amy Carroll. And Making Children's Clothes by Emma Hardy. And this one has a couple cute like make some simple like pajama pants, which I think we could probably do together, or like a sweet little apron. Definitely like this isn't stuff she could sew on her own, but we could work on it together. I think cute little kids things that very much look like you sewed them. That's the thing. I think both of us want things that don't look handmade, if that makes sense. But like pajama pants, that's forgiving. We want professional looking things, but we don't have the skill for that yet. So we need to practice. But this book this Bend the Rules one has definitely more complicated projects. And I don't understand what the bending the rules is, but it sounded good to me because I don't like rules. But it's got little bags and like little pouches. This is probably more for me than for her. But I would like to get good at things like sewing. And I love a good, I don't know if sewing is a survival skill, but I love a good forgotten skill. So we're going to try to sew together. And if you have any suggestions for sewing with children, for children, adults with the capacity of children, with their children. And like my daughter and I are trying to sew and the baby's on the floor and he's like just about crawling so he can like get places, not fast, but he can like scoot and get so he's like opening cabinets that I forgot to child-proof and pulling out paintbrushes and dumping craft supplies everywhere. So we need to work on all of that. But yes, we'd like to sew. So if you have any ideas on sewing for us, let me know. Really simple, really gratifying, but like not nonsense, like my 4-year-old doesn't really want to sew pot holders. That's not really like fun for her. So something that would be cute and fun for kids and helpful for me, and I don't know. We're working out of like a scrap fabric stash and the freest, easiest patterns you can find with the simplest sewing machine. So suggestions there, because I know a lot of you are sewists, and we could use some direction and encouragement. So that is my podcast for today. It was a little bit longer. I'm going to try and tack on the garden video at the end here, and if you're here for that, thank you. And if you made it this far, thank you for hanging out with me on this cloudy Saturday morning, or whenever it is that you are watching, because I'm probably uploading on a Friday. But thanks for hanging out for my fashion show and all of my ramblings, and I really appreciate you. I feel like I've been getting a bit of making done for summer and being busy and gardens and kids and all of that, but it's always nice to whatever I have and be able to share it with you and talk about it and get inspiration in the comments. So leave me some chat down below, and favorite patterns, recommendations, sewing, knitting, crocheting, the like, gardening, any of it. Just let's talk. Let's hang out. Thank you for being here with me, and I will catch you in episode 66 next time. Thanks, guys. Bye. Not really bye, but bye. Bye, Bella from the present. Go watch the garden tour. Mini bye. Thanks, y'all. Here, this is our original little tiny garden bed that I'm just doing a little bit in this year. I have some rogue milkweed that planted itself by way of birds or something, and it's got aphids or something on it, like black aphids, I think they're called, something that I've tried to remove, but we'll see if they take over anything else. I can neem oil or diatomaceous earth them or something, but I try to keep it as organic and uninterrupted as possible. But that is zucchini, summer squash, delicata squash. They're kind of in a cramped little spot over there, but we'll give them their best shot. Snow peas along the back fence, and then all of my cherry tomatoes are in this little line here. And the cucumbers, I don't know if they're gonna make it. I probably should have brought bigger plants. I've done them all from seed always, but this year I think the chipmunk, maybe something, like you can see, I need to weed, but that's a little baby cucumber there. I already planted them once, and something topped them all off and ate the tops off of them. So we'll see if they make it, but those cucumbers are trying their best. And then the snow peas will eventually get ripped out and resown later in the season. So this is like my little snacking garden. So this is the main garden of 2023. There are other various garden outposts, but first off, we have garlic that was sprouting in my compost pile that I planted just to see what it would do, and it seems to be doing something. I've never grown garlic before. And then down this way we have carrots in various stages. Those probably need to be thinned more. I thinned them, but now they're looking pretty close together. I don't know. Potatoes. Never grown potatoes before. There are these ones here. They look like tomatoes because they're a nightshade, but they are potatoes, which grow under the ground, in case you were unaware of how potatoes work. And yeah, I need to hill up some more dirt around them. I did not realize how sprawling they were going to be. They are, I don't know, I guess in my mind they had smaller leaves and bigger action going on under the surface, but no, they have massive, ridiculous, sprawling leaves. And then down this cattle panel is various tomatoes, all started from seeds. All my bigger tomatoes are down here, so I have like Cherokee Purple, Brandywine, various Romas. Queen of the Night is a new kind I'm trying. Dr. Witchy's, couple different large slicey and paste tomato varieties. These I didn't think were going to make it. These I started from seed, and they were like really not happy inside, and I didn't put them outside because I thought they were going to die. And then when I did put them outside, they're fine. There's a hideaway nasturtium under there, but that's broccoli. So we'll see if that turns into anything. It's a little late in the season to have broccoli out, as I like it colder, but we'll see if it does anything. Why not? We'll give it a shot. We got cucumbers coming up here, although something is chewing them. I put them in once already, and something topped them off in my other garden. So hopefully within the fence here, they get a chance. But those are, I don't remember what varieties. I planted 3 different cucumber varieties. There's dill over in the back corner, and then peppers in varying hotnesses, starting from jalapeno down to hot stuff down on the end there. That's a description, not a variety. And then kales. I think I have Nero de Toscana or something, and then blue kale, maybe? I don't remember. This is mostly the Nero kale, I think. This edge did not get edged out well, and the outside is creeping in. We need to do something about that. But we got just the other side of the tomatoes going down there. Then I have various lettuces coming up. Whatever variety was planted in here, just gave it no effort. That happens with seeds sometimes. Snow peas fighting the grass from the outside. Merlot, some kind of lettuce, some kind of ice queen butter lettuce or something. And then the ones on the end there is actually romaine that I just planted from the grocery store. Organic romaine that I then stuck in water, sprouted roots, popped it in the ground. Look at that, growing romaine. Tomatillos, I forget what variety. And then those are also, I don't know if you can see, scallions, green onions from the grocery store. That again, I cut 8, stuck the ends in water and sprouted some roots, and here we go. It's a random banana pepper that I got at a discount sale. Everything else, all the peppers, tomatoes, actually everything except probably this one plant and then the dill and the parsley. I started all from seed, which is the first year I've been able to do that. We had a greenhouse inside and it worked great. I clearly need to do some weeding because we got other things popping up, but it's rained the last couple days and I haven't gotten out here. I got some sunflowers coming up in the corner there. One rogue bean. Something came and either dug up all of my bean seeds. You can see that one there is a bean, a green bean. But I either put them in too early and they froze, or the chipmunk or something got in and dug them out. I'm not sure, but that's the only one that survived. I replanted, and I replanted edamame across that outer fence, so we'll see if those make it. And then in the back corner there's a sunflower, and I also planted some morning glories that belonged to my late grandfather. I've had the seeds for a while and I don't know if they're going to sprout, but I really wanted them to be a thing. Oh, there's a ladybug in there. Go eat my aphids, ladybug. We have some aphids in the other garden. Yeah, I don't know what kind that is though. And then I have various carrots, like I said. I planted more carrots in here, more carrots over there. This is my first time doing carrots, so that's exciting. And just look at those potatoes. They're wild. Yeah, there's lots of those. They pop up after the rain, but we don't know what kind they are. Yeah, so that is the gist of the main garden. I will give you some updates, I guess, as it gets taller. Thanks for coming along for that. Here ends the garden content.